Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, November 13th, and I have a number of stories here today that I want to cover. Obviously, one of them, as you can see, is people are picking on the conservatives again, basically making fun of Poilievre for being a tyrant. We also have Quebec doctors fleeing out of Quebec. They're all trying to move to Ontario because of basically poor wages. There's been the new law that's been passed, and they're all trying to scramble and get out. We're gonna touch on that. That's honestly quite a sensitive topic for Canadians in general because honestly the healthcare system's just kind of swamped, and with kind of these additional pressures being pushed on people in Quebec, that just seems like a catastrophe waiting to happen. We also have some Canadian military news, and I wanted to end it off with some updates from the G7. So let's dig in. Let's dig into what's going on here. So it says Poilievre says he hasn't reflected on leadership style after loss of two Conservative MPs, which is actually pretty funny. The title in itself. He says, so it says, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said he has not reflected on his leadership style after losing two members of his caucus last week. In his first remarks, Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Entremont crossed the floor to join the Liberals, and Alberta MP Matt Jean announced his resignation. Mr. Poilievre pointed to Mr. D'Entremont's past comments critiquing the current government. So I don't know what's up with this, but everybody seems to be French that's leaving the Conservatives and going Liberal. It's funny. Um, he said that Liberal food price inflation under Mark Carney was inhumane, and I couldn't agree more. Mr. Poilievre told reporters in Calgary Wednesday, quoting comments the now Liberal MP made as a member of the Conservative Party. Actually, we have a video. I'm gonna play it in a second. I think this whole story is funny on all aspects because I mentioned in an earlier video, being conservative and going liberal is should be impossible in all ways, philosophically, economically, and politically. Like you should be striving for completely different like basically governances in society, right? And like the fact that someone can cross into a liberal party from a conservative party really just means, how we had in the US they have rhinos. They labeled people rhinos, Republican in name only. We should really have that same kind of mentality of finger pointing in Canada in calling these people sinos, conservative in name only, because that's basically what it is. If you can cross over into a different party like that uh, with that level of ease, that means you're not really conservative or you're not really liberal if you're going the other way around. But that usually doesn't actually happen. I haven't really seen that ever. So I would really coin the term sino because there's nothing, or kino, however you want to do it, there's nothing conservative about these people that are crossing. What's Pierre Poilievre's leadership style? I'm not quite sure. I'm not in the Conservative Party. I'm not a member of any party, but that, like, you shouldn't be able to do that because you're just quite simply you should stand for different things if you're a conservative than if you're a liberal, and the debate room should be open for actual political debate. Having a liberal opinion, having a conservative opinion. Sometimes liberal opinion should be should make more sense than the conservative one, depending on what's going on in society, right? And that's how you have a healthy country. That's how you have healthy debate, when you have opposing opinions that can speak on a floor and get the message across, right? Not when you can so easily just crisscross between parties, right? And we actually know that we have the People's Party of Canada by Maxime Bernard. Bernier, sorry, and he dropped off from the Conservatives because he said that they're basically liberals. He's like, there's nothing conservative about these people. I want to start my own party, right? So just more proof to the point of what I was saying a second ago. But I want to play, so this is a Globe and Mail article. I want to play the actual clip from CTV News. It's a 3-minute video. He kind of digs into it quite a bit.
You lost 2 MPs the week of the budget. One cited your leadership as a reason for leaving. I just want to put Carney and the Liberals to the side here, just as you personally.
Of course you do.
Does this say anything about your leadership? Have you maybe reflected on your leadership style moving forward?
No, my plan is to continue to lead and be the only leader in the country that's fighting for an affordable Canada, where our people who work hard can afford a home and food. That is my agenda. And I will just quote Mr. d'Entremont when he speaks about Mark Carney. He says, after 6 months under a new Prime Minister who promised financial discipline, Canadians are still waiting. He said that he would be judged by the cost of groceries at the store. Well, Canadians are judging him, and they are not impressed. He said this only a few months ago. Since the Liberals came to power, food prices are up 40%. We have heard it many times here today. It is deliberate and it is unacceptable. It is inhumane, said Mr. d'Entremont, for a G7 country.
So just to touch on this point, food prices being up 40% and things being inhumane. When you actually have a policy that's implemented, it usually takes, like, you don't really see the after effects of that policy. Like, for instance, for food prices, right, and all of that. For an extended period of time, it takes like 12 months for you to actually see the ripple effects of the implementation of a policy, right? So nothing is actually immediate, and I think, it took Justin Trudeau, over a decade to really screw up the Canadian lifestyle, if you will, the standard of living. And I mean, it's not going to take 10 years to fix the situation that we're in, but it's going to take time to see positive effects, right? So I'm not really protecting or defending Mark Carney at all, but this is what Pierre Poilievre used as kind of like a ammunition against Mr. d'Entremont. That's really just finger pointing, right? He's trying to make him look bad, deface him, if you will, in public. Which, I mean, that's what politicians do. I'm not really surprised they're doing that, but like actually economically, once you put in a policy in place, it actually takes time. You have to wait to see what the ripple effects of those policy changes are going to be, right? So we're still yet to see whatever is happening right now. This 40% increase, it might be from early poor judgment of the Liberal Party of Mark Carney, but it also could just be more garbage trickling down from Justin Trudeau, right?
So he said that Liberal food price inflation under Mark Carney was inhumane, and I couldn't agree more. And I feel badly for the inhumane conditions, to use his own words, that he is now supporting for his own constituents. But I won't just quote him. I'll quote Nate Erskine-Smith, a Liberal MP, who now says that his children should not have to pay for Mark Carney's budget. Let me see here. Now to the bad and more fairly, where expectations were set at a level we failed to meet, including on the question of generational investments. The budget falls short of these specific promises in our platform, and it unfortunately falls well short of the wartime home building effort that many of us thought we'd deliver. It's certainly not a budget that should throw us into an election at an uncertain time, but it does not live up to its promise of generational investments. He goes on to say, this is Mr. Nate Erskine-Smith, a Liberal MP, that Mark Carney has broke his promise to spend less, with $90 billion of new spending, only 36% of which is actually capital. The rest is more costs. So when you have a Liberal MP attacking the costly credit card budget that Mr. Carney has put forward, then we see turmoil in the Liberals, and I know that there will be wall-to-wall coverage on CTV of this turmoil, of a Liberal MP criticizing his own budget days before the vote. I know you're camped outside his office right now, waiting to get comment from him. I know you've been chasing Mark Carney down hallways to find out what he has to say. I mean, it's just been the relentless coverage that you will have of this dissent within the Liberal Party. I understand also there's former Liberal Minister Guilbeault is unhappy with the environmental policies that while he supports raising costs, he doesn't think they raise them enough. We've got Wilkinson is unhappy. So I know that I'm looking forward to seeing the wall-to-wall coverage on CTV of all of the costly turmoil in the Liberal budget. So I will be tuning in tonight to watch your newscast. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, he had to give a little jab to CTV News as well, basically calling them out on bias. He's doing a good job of covering his ass. You know, that's what a politician needs to do. He's doing it well. Obviously, he had 2 MPs leave, so that that's quite a big hit for them in Parliament. He has to do it. He did a good job of doing it, but what the Conservative problem is internally, I am not quite sure, to be honest. I don't know what the inner makings is of that, but let's jump into, so this is another CTV article. Let's jump into Medicare in Canada, Quebec specifically. And the title goes, nearly 300 Quebec doctors apply to get licensed in Ontario in less than 1 month, CPSO. So nearly 300 doctors from Quebec have applied to get a license to work in Ontario in less than 1 month amid a law passed by François Legault's government that will overhaul how physicians are compensated next year, according to the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario. Since October 23rd, it has received 285 applications from Quebec doctors as of 9 a.m. on Wednesday. That's compared to the 19 applications submitted to the college from June to October 22nd. The college noted that the applications are seeking a restricted or an independent practice certificate. Individual physicians may make personal decisions to relocate for various reasons, and our data does not disclose reasons seeking licensure to practice in Ontario. So obviously, our good old Premier Ford, he says down here, he's like, they know it's a great place, number one, to live, raise a family, and start their business because doctors' offices are their personal business. So we welcome it. So I mean, obviously, Ontario's going to take in everybody that they can. If they're a doctor, obviously, why not? And it's healthy to have this bit of a competitiveness between the provinces, because obviously if Quebec messes something up royally, Ontario is going to benefit, and they're going to be forced to change their practices internally very quickly because they're going to be left without doctors. Canada in general has a healthcare problem with the lack of physicians. It's just, even in Ontario in the ER, you usually wait a couple hours before somebody actually looks at you. After surgery, you get let out the same day, to recover at home. And it's because there's not enough physicians to adequately take care of you. So they do what they can, and then you're off to, take care of yourself basically at home. But let's have a quick look at this video. This guy's an anesthesiologist, so.
As my last gasp attempt.
Anesthesiologist Trevor Hennessy plans to move his practice out of Quebec after the CAQ government passed Bill 2. The new law links pay to performance, but doesn't provide more resources.
This is the first time that we've been called parasites and greedy and lazy when this past Monday and Friday, 9 out of my 12 operating rooms are closed from lack of nurses.
That's messed
and
up.
Yet we're being blamed for the issues in the system.
9 out of 12 operating rooms are closed due to a lack of people. Guys, come on. That's messed up, man. How, this should be illegal. This should be unconstitutional to do something like this, honestly. What are you, that just means people are just going to die, because of lack of healthcare, like not being taken care of. Embarrassing.
Bill 2 takes effect in January. It demands doctors see 75% of ER patients within 90 minutes and perform 97% of surgeries within 1 year of assessment. Not meeting targets could result in pay being clawed back.
So I just want to go back 10 seconds just so that's on the... all right.
Minutes and perform 97% of surgeries within 1 year of assessment.
Just so it's on the screen. So 9 out of 12 operating rooms are closed because they don't have enough physicians or operating staff. So you have 3 that are open because to adequately treat people. But the new law is going to force doctors to see 75% of ER patients within 90 minutes. Sure, that's great. 97% of surgeries completed within 1 year of assessment. Sure, that is also great. I would love to see that as well. And clawback for performance. Cool. That's all great. But none of this might not even be an issue if you had enough doctors in the first place, right? So why do we not have enough medical staff anywhere? Why is this a problem? Why is that this is the actual problem. We don't have enough people working in healthcare in Canada in general, because some of these problems, issues actually exist in Ontario as well. I'm sure they exist in Manitoba and in Saskatchewan and these other places as well, in the other provinces. Let's hire more people. Let's incentivize them to stay. I know a lot of doctors. I actually personally know a number of doctors that went to go work in the U.S. Why do they go work in the U.S.? Why? Because they get paid more. Why are they getting paid more? Why are doctors being paid less in Canada than they are in the U.S.? Let's pay our doctors more. These people, like being like a surgeon, for instance, is like one of the few professions where you actually have to have like a 24-hour shift. Like, that's messed up. I would never want to work for 24 hours straight or 48 hours straight and then take 2 days off. Those 2 days don't mean anything. You're like a zombie, and then you have to go do another one. That's insane. We got to pay these people. We got to let them prosper. Anyways, let's continue the video.
Meeting targets could result in pay being clawed back. Physicians face potential fines of $20,000 a day for protesting the bill. That didn't stop thousands from demonstrating on the weekend.
Guys, hey, we're going to charge them $20,000 a day for protesting the bill. Let's charge the doctors that are left in Quebec, in the province, $20,000 a day to protest being screwed without like lubricant, just being like screwed royally. We're lack of staff, but we gotta hurry up, right? So lack of staff, you gotta hurry up. So what's that gonna do to the quality of the treatment for anybody that's left over? It's either the clawbacks are gonna be so outrageous that these people are gonna make literally no money, or they're just gonna be pushing people through. They're gonna do stitches instead of stitching somebody up 15, they're gonna put 5 and they're gonna say, hey, it's good enough, you'll be good. Drink some Tylenol. Don't worry about it. Put some duct tape over your scar. You know what I mean? Like, then, hey, don't protest. You're gonna be charged $20,000 a day. Wow.
Doctors have been without contracts since 2023.
Our government has chosen to forcefully apply a law on us that goes against all of our rights.
In the past month, more than 350 Quebec doctors have applied for licenses to work in the neighboring provinces of New Brunswick and Ontario.
So we welcome everyone. I'm not targeting Quebec doctors. If they call me, I return their call.
Clinics are facing closure and leaving patients in the lurch.
This is like a family for me here. The people are very kind and generous.
About 2 million Quebec residents do not have a family doctor.
Guys, 2 million residents don't have a family doctor. A family doctor. 2 million people don't have a means to get a prescription in Quebec. And they're passing this law in which only 3 out of 12 operating rooms are ready capable with staff. And 2 million people don't have family doctors. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? That is messed up. That's actually messed up. Like, I don't even know what to think about that.
Asked to respond to the exodus of physicians from the province, Quebec's health minister dodged reporters with a no comment. Omar.
All right, Judy, thank you.
And I just want to, I'm actually going to ChatGPT this real quick. We're going to get into this next thing real quick. Let's see what AI says. Think, buddy. This is messed up. This is actually an insane statistic, guys. It's actually painful. So this is a legitimate problem. Like, people aren't being healed. There's basically no healthcare in Quebec. So why would you go want to live in Quebec? After hearing this, I would have no incentive to want to go. So Quebec needs 1,500 family doctors. They need to hire 1,500 family doctors to accommodate the 2 million people. 1,500. 1,500. Come on, guys. Come on. That's insane. Let's move on to the next thing that I wanted to talk about. So it's related to defense. And so this is a CTV article. It says Canada's new head of defense investment agency starts today. So this guy has some experience in the Royal Bank of Canada, worked in Goldman Sachs. So he's basically a banker. We're going to be working procurement for our defense industry. Basically anything above $100 million is going to be going through him. And his first major responsibility will be selecting the supplier for the Canada Patrol Submarine Project. And Canada wants to buy a fleet of 12 submarines. The contract spans decades and could be the largest overseas defense procurement in Canada's history. Aging submarines need to start being replaced by 2035. And I'm going to tie this article to another one here because we had a visit. We had a little royal visit. Swedish King's visit highlighting growing Canadian interest in Saab military aircraft. So this is a CBC article. Basically, a few days before the federal budget was tabled, the CEO of Swedish industrial giant Saab flew to Ottawa to meet with the country's top bureaucrat, fueling the sense a deal is brewing between the Canadian government and military manufacturer. So basically, interested in acquiring European military equipment as well as beefing up its domestic production capacity. So down here, it states that Canada is actually looking to be producing the Gripen, Saab's Gripen aircraft. It's actually a pretty good plane. Here we go. The delegation will make a stop at Bombardier's facilities in Montreal, highlighting the company's desire to work with Saab on the production of Gripens for the Canadian market, as well as potential clients such as Ukraine. Why is there such a need to try and help you, bro? Like, in this, and so this is what I actually have in ChatGPT. I had the AI actually pull out what Canadian military equipment, what its core military equipment, air, navy, and the ground forces look like, and I had it actually compared to Sweden, because Sweden's actually it's a pretty comparable country in size to Canada. There's 20 million people living in Sweden, 25, I believe. But Sweden has its own military manufacturing. It's bolstering sovereign defense. It's producing its own stuff that it uses for itself. It sells it here and there, but it produces it for itself. Why doesn't Canada? This is why I brought this in here, right? Both countries need each other, especially in this complex global landscape, blah, blah, blah. So basically, Ottawa still committed to buying 16 F-35s, but there's a growing talk of a mixed fleet of F-35s and Gripen. So F-35s are good planes. They're very pricey, and the U.S. actually has a bit of a production problem in manufacturing them. So this is probably why Canada is looking elsewhere to be buying planes. And the interesting thing about Sweden is Sweden's military is a good mixture of air and sea equipment. So they honestly they just looked at what they have. They're like, this is where we are. We're in Scandinavia, and the best way we're not going to be shooting each other with with the other Scandinavian countries. You know, we're all peace on all those fronts. The only way we can really protect ourselves is protecting our skies and protecting our seas, right? And so that's where they bolstered. This is really something that Canada should be replicating. I think that Canada's Navy should be amongst the top navies in the world. I think we should have one of the largest, if not the largest, naval fleets in the world, but we don't. So this is what Canada has. Here we go. So we got 12 Halifax class frigates, a bunch of these ships, a lot of these planes. And so down below I have them state how, I actually asked ChatGPT to see how outdated or when they came into service. Sometimes ChatGPT doesn't. Yeah, what is? Here's a full clean list of the entry into service days for the Canadians. So here we go. The Air Force. They got 89 aircraft from the 80s, guys. These things should be like practice planes. You know, we shouldn't be like the only place we can fly these planes is like Iraq right now. You know what I mean? Like those types of countries. Anybody with an actual air defense system is gonna knock these planes out of the sky. 11 Aurora, also from the 80s, 1960s design. Come on, guys. Hercules, also 1960s, entered into service 2010. The H model, 60s tech, guys. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Globemaster 3-5 aircraft. So these are new. Good. 2018, good. So this is already aging. We shouldn't have anything in our military that is older than like 2000. That's kind of pushing it already because that's already 20 years old, 25 years old, right? We should be bolstering modernized 4th generation tech and 5th generation tech across the board. Like across the board, this shouldn't be a question. Chinook, these are good. These are good helicopters. Leopard 2. So these are the old Leopard 2s. These aren't the modern ones. So this is 3rd generation tanks that we're rocking. 3rd generation German tanks. I know Canada has so our light vehicle fleet is pretty good. The Royal Canadian Navy. Here we go. 1990s. We have 6 of these ships, so this is good. These are patrol vessels. So these are smaller vessels that need a zip around. More 90s vessels and some early 2000s vessels bought secondhand. So the original construction was in the 80s. Guys, this is what I mean. Our military is not good. Like we're so behind in upgrading everything, right? And this is why I wanted to bring Sweden into the fold, because Sweden produces its own planes, it produces its own guns, it produces its own APCs, it manufactures its own military hardware. It doesn't rely on anybody. And so this is what I need. So we go Royal Swedish aircraft. So 4th generation planes. 2023 to present. So these things are coming into play. They're entering service. We got a bunch of these 90s, late 90s. These are being ordered. You're seeing a lot more stuff in the 2000s in the Swedish forces. I mean, obviously, so these air defenses, so they haven't bolstered this because they never really had a reason to really try and defend their skies. But this is something you have to be looking at. This you can't be devoid of this, right? And so this is my point. This is my point here. Canada has to do a better job of not procurement. We need to start looking at what we can manufacture. Because if you're going to go into a conflict, you have to constantly be procuring artillery shells, bullets, grenades, and this and that from suppliers. How long is that conflict going to actually last? That's not national defense. That's you buying stuff to go on an expedition somewhere in the world. If you're gonna, if that's how you're bolstering your national defense. National defense comes from a national military manufacturing strategy, and you understand your own supply chains. Let's get into the next article. Canada in the G7. So, Minister announced new sanctions targeting Russian drones and cyber attacks on Ukraine. Come on, guys. That's the subtitle. Does that really have to be the subtitle? So they talked about nothing really, to be honest. So there's no talks about Canada becoming the 51st state anymore. Minister Lavoie is working hard on this file every single day. This is regarding the Canada-U.S. trade. So nothing special happened, really. What is funny, though, is these new sanctions on Russia that they had to announce in the G7, right? Because this is the problem with the West, right? It's not that, there's massive stagflation across, the European Union. The U.S. is doing something. We're not really sure what's going on there. Canada's not in a good spot either. But we need new sanctions on Russia. We need to put more pressure on a country that hasn't really done anything to us, right? So nearly 4 years into the brutal war, Russian attacks have brought rolling blackouts to Ukraine as winter approaches. U.S.-led diplomatic efforts to negotiate a ceasefire remain at a standstill. Rubio's a hawk. He's a warmonger, but so that this isn't surprising. The June G7 Leaders Summit in Alberta was meant to showcase unity on top global blah, blah, blah. Canada has made it a top priority of our G7 presidency to maintain and strengthen our support for Ukraine at every opportunity. The sanctions, which take effect immediately, will also hit 100 vessels in Russia's sanctions evading shadow fleet and 2 Russian liquefied natural gas entities. So why I wanted to post this and talk about the G7 is because they say this, right? They mention this, but they don't tell you what the actual effects of this is going to be on Russia, right? We're targeting these 100 vessels. Who cares? What's the economic impact that the Canada sanctions are going to put on 100 Russian vessels? Canada and Russia, they don't really trade. What impact are you having? You're just doing things for PR purposes, right? And they lead to nothing. You're just ruining relations. The U.S. has actually had bilateral talks with the Russians a couple times. They've talked several times. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. They've talked several times. Canada used to be considered this big mediator around the world, peace and this and that, loving. But Donald Trump seems to be having more bilateral negotiations with everybody than any Canadian leader has had in like 20 years. So I don't really know, what's the point of this? This is literally just PR. And then you have this French foreign minister talking more nonsense. It says G7 in Canada says U.S. boat strikes violate international law. So the French are now criticizing the U.S. for shooting drug ships from Venezuela going into North America. Really, France? We shouldn't look into what you've been doing in Africa for like the last 50 years, right? That's That's not violating anybody's human rights or international rights. Let's not look at that. That's not a problem. But you know, you're gonna tell basically your overlord, and that's basically what the U.S. is to all of the NATO nations. It's not really that big of an alliance. It's really the U.S. is the big daddy, and everybody just kind of falls in line, because when the U.S. tells you to fall in line, everybody actually falls in line. So it's not that much of an alliance as it is U.S. imperialism, and everybody always falls in line. And if they don't, they get paid a visit, and then they end up falling in line, because that's exactly what happened in the beginning of Donald Trump's tenure. They all fell in line. So Canada's like, yeah, we're not doing anything. Canada's not assisting in these efforts. It's I actually didn't want to get into this too much. What happened to due process? So obviously, Gavin Newsom here is trying to point fingers at Donald Trump, which is, you know, normal. Didn't want to get into this article too much, but I just wanted to show the lack of competence that exists amongst Western leaders to actually come up with a solution. There's no solutions. And then they try and finger point, you know, back to the US. The French are nobodies. The French are nobodies. The German economy is collapsing, and they're still not the first place players in Europe. So, you know, France has nothing to say to anybody. And that's just the way it is. But everybody wants their voices to be heard. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. My name is Miloš Krajčnik. Stay informed, stay curious, and God bless Canada.
This is Canada. Maple syrup and like Captain say, kick your ass all hockey season,